whenever you want to go.
Hey, welcome to Prime Properties. This is Chris Reed with Keller Williams Classic Properties Realty. I'm so excited to have my friend Daniela Adams and Mildred Dibartola from PMTitle on the show this week. And so, you know, there's a lot of different aspects of buying and selling real estate. And one of the most important aspects of that is the title company. So let me just ask you, Daniela, who is PMTitle and what type of service do you provide in the real estate industry?
Well, for starters, we provide real estate title insurance, and we are a full service title insurance company, so we handle residential, commercial, and land. PMTitle is a family-owned title company. We came from Washington Courthouse, Ohio. We moved up to Columbus, Ohio in 2012, and we built PMTitle from scratch. So we knew no one. I went out on the streets. I was working 3 jobs. I was going to school full time and just attending as many meetings as I could. And we started with 3 people in a small little office on Columbus Street in Grove City, Ohio. And now we have 7 offices and 25 full-time employees.
That is amazing. And I remember when you guys came to town because you knocked on my door often. And
Yes.
It was just a great breath of fresh air, I might just say, because there's a lot of options for title companies in Columbus, Ohio. A lot of big national names that have been around for decades, and you guys just provided, in my mind, a new benchmark of service, and that's what I kind of like to say, a new benchmark, you know, because that's exactly what you did. I'll never forget when I first got in the business, calling a title company, and because my folks, they'd work, right? They'd work 9 to 5, and oftentimes it'd be hard for them to get off work. I'll never forget calling a very large title company in Columbus trying to schedule a showing or trying to schedule a closing, and they're like, yeah, we only close on the hour in our office between 9 and 4, and it just wasn't very conducive. It wasn't very convenient for my folks. So I think it's a fantastic service you guys have provided, and I'm very happy to be a part of that for sure. So what should a buyer or borrower expect from a title company?
So we're here to facilitate the closing and kind of keep everyone in the loop as to what's going on. That's part of our job. With a traditional lender transaction, a buyer can expect to be communicating with us and with their lender to basically bring what they need to bring to closing. So from us, we run the title search to make sure that they're investing in a free and clear property. We typically tell them how much they need to bring to closing. We'll send them our wiring instructions securely via email directly to the buyer so that they know what they need to bring to the table.
I think the most important thing is to understand that the lenders prepare the numbers. Then they send the closing instructions to the title company. And that's when we match up our numbers to provide to the buyer. A lot of times the buyer is thinking that the title company is actually preparing those numbers.
Right.
So that is to be clear that we actually get our numbers from the lender, then we prepare the final settlement statement.
Like, we're there to kind of, make sure that we're following the lender's instructions.
Right.
And until we get their green light and go ahead, then we can release numbers to buyers.
Because a lot of times buyers are frustrated because they don't know what their numbers are, right?
Right.
Even sometimes up until the day before, the day of closing, or sometimes just a few hours before the closing. So there can be a lot of frustration there, right?
Yes,
Definitely.
yes. And even though we have the 3-day TRID that's supposed to be happening, right now it's still last minute. It's still an hour before closing, and
is that part of what TRID was supposed to eliminate?
TRID was supposed to be able to
I think
basically provide buyers with their numbers 3 days before closing, so there's no last minute frustration on their part where they don't understand their numbers or what they're being charged for. And now we're just right back to where we were, where it's last minute, an hour before closing. Sometimes we'll be sitting in closing and then we'll get numbers.
That's interesting to know.
Yep.
What about the wire fraud? You hear a lot about companies being defrauded, people being defrauded of their money because of can you talk a little bit about the hacking and all that?
Yeah, so it's definitely a very scary time right now with wire fraud and hacking. PMTitle, we definitely make a huge effort to ensure that everyone is protected. That's why we always send our wiring instructions securely to buyers, and then we always tell them to call our offices to confirm that the information is correct. Because you definitely have to check with us.
Actually, so and the thing is with wire fraud, these scam artists, hackers, whatever you shall call them, they know our season, right? So spring, summer, fall is the busiest time of the year for people to buy houses.
Sure.
And that's when they really hit it hard
active,
with hacking into emails.
Okay.
They actually are looking for these buyers and sellers. It's easy for them to figure out their passwords. So that's the biggest thing is we change our passwords every 6 months. I highly advise that all agents, lenders, title companies, everyone in our business change their password every 6 months. But with buyers and sellers, the most important thing is to understand is that if you don't get an email from your agent or your title company with wiring instructions, there's an issue. But when you do, you always call the title company to confirm the wiring instructions. You always call. You pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So that's
Seems
the
good
most
to
important
know.
thing. Yeah.
Very good. What should a seller expect from a title company?
With our seller, we always send out a seller information sheet. A lot of times, sellers, we need to get their payoff. We have to get their homeowners association information. We need to know if they're married. So we always send out a seller intro letter. We communicate more with the seller than the buyer,
Right.
because we are the title company. We're providing the title insurance. The seller is paying for the title insurance.
Okay.
So we constantly communicate with the seller. We are working with them to get their payoff, and then how would they like their funds handled. So we handle closing, scheduling the closing with them, and directing their funds, and so we really do communicate a lot with the seller.
Do you find that today there are fewer and fewer roundtable closings? What do you guys feel?
Yes.
How do you think about what's going
For
on with
sure.
that?
Yeah, we have a lot of our sellers pre-sign,
Okay.
at whatever time is convenient for them before the buyers, just because it gets their part out of the way.
Right.
So when it comes to the day of closing, they don't even have to show up and they just
Right,
their money.
and with sellers, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. And when you're bringing a buyer into the situation, it could be 30 to 45 minutes. And a lot of people have to go to work. So, they might have 5 minutes, 10 minutes on their lunch break. But we try to pre-sign sellers to accommodate them so that they're not breaking away from their duties in their real life. So 5 to 10 minutes is good. Plus, it's a privacy issue as well. I mean, it's really none of the buyer's business what the seller's getting back at closing.
Amen.
It's none of their
Amen to
business
that.
what they're paying off.
Right. Exactly.
And to be honest, then you get the seller in there, and then they want to know what the appraisal was. They want to know, what's the interest rate and their payment, and it just becomes an issue. So
when when the curiosity kind of goes on the other side where it shouldn't be, that eliminates that from having the seller pre-sign, right? One of the things I've always appreciated about PMTitle is the fact that you guys go out of your way to make things convenient for the seller, right?
Yes, we do.
And for their agent. And for me, that's been a godsend. And I don't know too many title companies that will go to someone's work at 7 or 8 o'clock at night in the evening to make things convenient. And we're a service business. As real estate agents, my clients know they can reach me pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm always available to them. And that's one of the things I've just always loved about PMTitle is the fact that you guys are also, I can text Daniela at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night and expect at the seller sheet, within 30 minutes or so. Try doing that at the big title company.
Right.
That's not happening.
We really, Monday through Sunday is our thing, 24/7, 365 days a year. That's truly what we live by. Being in courthouse, a lot of those title companies, they start 9 to 4, and they'll tell you your last closing's at 3 o'clock.
Right.
It's funny when we moved to Columbus, and we actually were experiencing the same thing in Columbus with title companies. We're like, what are you guys doing? So we really, when agents ask me what time can they close, it's 3 a.m. We'll start at 3 a.m. We'll go till 11 p.m. We've been to prisons. We've been, went out on land with farmers at 3 o'clock in the morning. We've shown up to jobs, hospitals, women.
Signed on the hoods of cars, in parking lots.
Yep. We literally would do anything. So.
And I think that's the difference. And you have agents that too have really been on their toes lately because houses sell so quickly. So a house cuts to market and the buyer wants to see it, we're on sale. We'll see it Saturday at noon. That's not going to work. We'll be in contract by then. So
Right.
we drop what we're doing and we make things happen. And we want to work with vendors that have that same philosophy because it makes our lives easier and it makes things better for our clients. So.
So I was thinking of this on the way here. I was thinking my favorite time of the day and my favorite day in general in the week.
Okay.
And my favorite time of the day is after 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And I love the weekends, not because it's time to sleep, but it's the weekends where we're making money, right?
Yep.
So you're showing properties after hours. You're writing offers.
That's a great point.
And I love the weekends because I know that I have my laptop glued to my hip at all times, driving down the car with me. I've pulled over before to hook up to my hotspot, to doing that to seller.
Yeah.
That's exciting to me because I know that things are happening. We're going to make money. So
what kills me is when I'll in the past I've had opportunities to work with a few other title companies, and they'll say, oh well, you can download this app and you can put everything in and it'll print it out for you, and you don't have to call us anymore. I'm like, oh well, really?
Yeah.
I don't have to call you anymore.
Good
You're
luck
right.
trusting
I
the
do not have to
technology,
call
okay?
you anymore.
Right,
Thank you very
that's
much
sad.
for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. Can you touch briefly on the dower law in the state of Ohio and who should show up to closing when buying or selling real estate? I know dower is, I believe Ohio is one of 7 states of the 50, right, that have this dower thing. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I believe now it's like there's 4 left, 4 states.
Okay.
And yeah.
It's an antiquated thing for sure. So if you're selling a property and you're married, your spouse automatically has an interest in the property. So they would have to show up to closing with you to sign off on it.
And it doesn't matter if you bought the property prior to marriage. Yeah.
Right.
So if you're in title, Chris, and later down the road you get married, your spouse automatically has a half interest in that property.
Wow.
So they would sign
Yeah.
off. And the thing is a lot of times sellers argue with us, and it's like, that's the law. That's not us making the rules. That's the dower law.
And if you're separated and haven't seen them in 20 years, but you're still legally married,
right,
it comes
they
into play.
still have to
Welcome
sign.
to Ohio.
Yes, welcome to Ohio. And with that
So
being
that
said,
would be,
it does. Now we're going to talk about buyers, because it doesn't matter if you're coming from another state that is not a dower state. It's because you're buying the property in Ohio, and that's what makes your spouse sign off. A lot of people think, well, yeah, I'm married, but only I'm on the loan or I'm on the note, so I'll only be responsible. Yes, you are only on the note. You are responsible for the mortgage. But in the state of Ohio, we have the dower law, so your spouse will attend and they will sign off on the mortgage as well.
Interesting.
And with that being said, it also does not matter what country you're from. When you're buying in Ohio, you're married outside of the country, whatever those rules are, it still applies in Ohio. Your spouse will sign. So we've had that a lot as well. Yeah.
Tell me your wildest, most memorable story about dower.
So a buyer was purchasing from Maryland, I believe, and his wife was in Maryland. He was moving to Ohio buying property. Obviously, he did not bring her, and so he thought he could just buy a house. Lender did not know he was married as well.
Okay.
So we got to the closing table, asked where the spouse was, and he said, she's in Maryland. Little did we know, yes, she's in Maryland, all right, and she was in a nursing home. So then it becomes, she's in a nursing home, and she's actually in a vegetated state.
Oh my gosh.
So then we had to call the sister, and she actually had guardian ad litem over her sister.
Yeah.
And so what happens is then it becomes a struggle, because you have these people moving here, and then the lender's not asking the proper questions.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Right.
And so it was a hassle to get the sister to say, I really don't know if my sister's going to be okay with this because she's sick. So, but at the end of the day, it worked out. But I'm going to tell you, we run into it all the time.
Yeah. Crazy. There's definitely crazy situations. I had one recently where the guy was married, owned the property by himself, but was still married to his wife, who was in prison, unfortunately. That was just last week. So we had to wait. Yeah, we're still waiting for that deed to come back. But, and it's frustrating, because you would think, well, what does it matter? She's not on the title.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
and if you want to avoid your spouse being in title or signing off on mortgages and deeds, all you have to do, put it in an LLC.
Right.
create a trust,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the other things I really appreciate about PMTitle is I remember recently a friend of mine called me. His mother had just passed, and he wasn't sure, if the will was done properly, those kinds of things. And you guys were able to jump in and help because you have an attorney on file,
Yes.
on staff, right?
Yes, we
that was
do.
able to jump in and help us, and that was a great thing.
Yeah. Mark Miller is our real estate attorney. He is one of our owners, and he focuses all his attention on our title company and doing whatever we need. And he's there all hours. The guy works nonstop like we do.
Yeah.
So he's amazing.
He is
Yes.
very good.
Yeah.
You're listening to Prime Properties. We're going to take a quick break, come back in a few minutes, and pick up again.
Perfect. You have about 12 and a half minutes left.
Okay, awesome.
Good job, team.
Awesome.
We're
Yeah.
good.
Teamwork. Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just jump back in here if you guys are ready.
Okay.
And welcome back to Prime Properties. My name is Chris Reed. I'm with Keller Williams Classic Properties Realty, and I have the distinct privilege of being here with Daniela Adams and Mildred Dibartola today from PMTitle. We are talking about title companies and what their role is in the buying and selling of real estate in Ohio. And just picking back up here, what's the Ohio Good Funds Law? Talk to me about Ohio Good Funds Law.
Yeah, so I think it was a year or two ago now, where Ohio requires now that any funds over $10,000 have to be wired. No more
Okay.
cashier's checks. So if you're a buyer,
No more briefcase full of 20s.
no more
Right.
cash, yeah.
Okay.
We've had that
Darn.
before.
None of
Shoot.
that. So yeah, if you're expecting to bring more than $10,000 to the closing for your purchase, they have to be wired. There's no way around that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
One thing to remember also is that a lot of people think that, oh, well, my bottom dollar amount is $11,137. Doesn't matter, it still has to be wired. You cannot split it up into two checks.
Right.
You can't, that's not how it works. It's the full proceed would have to be wired to us. They did this to try to eliminate fraud because people were taking pictures of their cashier's checks and then depositing the money back into their account.
Oh.
So that's why they created the Ohio Good Funds Law, and
Okay, that makes sense.
to try to protect people. Well, it actually has done nothing but kind of create more problems, I think, personally. I mean,
It's brought on new, different problems,
Right.
right? With the
Yeah.
wire fraud and the hacking.
Gotcha.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, so anything over 10,000 is wired. Anything under 10,000 can be a cashier's check, and that's really just how it is. And that's the
Gotcha.
law. That's not the
Yeah.
title
it's
company.
not our decision.
And
Right.
another thing to follow into that, if you have a buyer who is from a different state and they're moving to Ohio, maybe they bank with a local bank where they currently live, right?
Okay.
So if that's the case, how are they going to then, if they've already moved here to Ohio, how are they going to wire us their money for closing?
Good point.
And so we've run into these issues with these buyers who they're buying a property in Ohio. They might be from Colorado and they bank with a local bank and they call their bank up like, hey, I need to wire this money. And they're like, well, you have to come all the way back to Colorado
Oh, wow.
to initiate the wire. So
Gotcha.
really important thing for agents to tell buyers who are buying from out of state to Ohio, they need to come here and set up an account. It's important because there are no exceptions to this. The funds have to be wired.
Okay,
So,
gotcha.
yeah.
And we spoke about this earlier. We've been touching on the wire fraud thing, but how else can we help prevent buyers and sellers from wire fraud? Any other additional thoughts about that, or?
These hackers are actually they're really good at their job. They're talented and I always pay attention to detail with emails. We're looking at the email address. So who's the sender? Where did it come from? Is your phone number correct? So they're putting fake phone numbers, they're putting fake addresses, they're changing things just a little bit in the email. So sellers and buyers need to pay attention to their email more.
Yeah.
Like, where's this coming from? Can I look at the body of the content? Never click on anything. I'd always call the agent
So
first.
don't click on a link from a title company.
Definitely, I would not click on anything that, we send out our intro letter, and that's secured.
Okay.
So
there's something on the bottom of your email that lets the opener of that email know that it is a secured
It is a
link.
secure
yes, it
portal,
is.
right.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And
yes.
our phone number is always attached to that email, so
Right.
you can always,
Right.
if you have any suspicions, just
Yeah.
call.
I
Pick
would
up
always
the
call.
phone.
Well, and so I tell people to not just call, but maybe to actually Google the company and
Yes.
be online to
Right.
find it, because it could be the number that they put on the email, right, is the
Yeah.
bad guy, right? So
Right.
you're actually calling
Yeah.
the bad guy.
Right.
Yep.
So I tell folks
Definitely
to verify the phone number a couple different ways.
I mean, obviously, buyers and sellers aren't going to notice all the little things that we
Sure,
do because
sure.
they hit us every single day, you know.
Uh-huh.
So it's just attention to detail and ask questions. Call the title company.
Gotcha.
I cannot express that.
Yeah.
Call the title company.
That's good. What type of issues do you see when pulling a title exam, and can those issues potentially cause a delay in the closing?
Oh yes, I love this question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we see a lot of issues. I process mainly investor deals and kind of distressed properties.
Okay.
So
So
those
you probably see it all with
yeah,
that in that world.
I've seen a lot. A lot of the issues that we come across are these like prior deeds that are defective. So like you bought you acquired the property from your mom, and the deed prior to that wasn't notarized, but it was filed, or the spouse didn't sign off on it. Things like that could hold up closing, because then we have to go and do our research and find these people
Sure.
to sign a corrective deed.
Or they've done a
bankruptcies-
quick claim deed on
Yeah.
their own. And guess what? If you prepare a quick claim deed on your own, remember, your spouse has to sign. So a lot of these deeds we're
Right.
running into, people are preparing on their own to transfer a property. And guess what? We have one right now where a guy did this and he was divorced and married twice, and those spouses did not release
Yeah.
dower.
Oh,
So
no.
that property will not be selling unless we hunt them down.
That's why title companies are
Yeah.
important, because you have, people try to
Yeah.
save money by downloading deeds off the internet, and
Gotcha.
it
Gotcha.
just doesn't work.
What would
But
you
yeah.
say might be one of the things that maybe someone trying to sell their house on their own might run into by trying to do things on their own?
Honestly, if they're trying to do that on their own without agents or title,
Uh-huh.
this is not good.
Yeah. Well, I try to explain that to people.
it's
They're
not
like,
good.
Oh, you
Um,
want to get your
Right.
Not good. They're trying to save a dollar,
Right.
Right.
and we've had this happen before. There's judgments, liens,
Yeah.
tax liens,
Medicaid
mortgages.
liens,
Yeah.
just
I mean-
crazy.
So you're saying as a buyer, unrepresented by agency, right? You're
Yes.
going in to look at a house for sale by owner.
Mhm.
You're saying there are additional things they need to be wary of, right?
Yes.
And that going into that whole thing without agency protection could be risky.
Yes.
Now, that's what I hear you saying. Is
Yes,
that right?
that is definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, did you hear that? Buyers who are trying to buy homes by themselves without agency representation?
Yes.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
One
So
more thing I want to
sure.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the biggest things that we also see is that a lot of times people are purchasing properties and they're using a lender, they're getting a mortgage, and they're getting the OFA loan.
Okay.
Right. So it's like a down payment assistance.
Sure.
They have so many years to pay, like basically to
I
own the
know where you're
property.
going with this. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's just say that happens. A lot of times people forget about that because they're not making a payment on that second mortgage.
I see.
So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
running title, and then we say, oh, here's your net to seller, and they're freaking out because they're like, I don't have a second mortgage. Well, you do, because it's considered a mortgage, but you don't pay anything on it. And that has to be paid off because I believe it's 7 years now.
7 years,
Yeah.
and
So
depending
7
on
years.
when you sell it,
Right.
it's reduced along
So
the years.
the
but
down payment assistance program, if I'm hearing you correctly, the down payment assistance programs have to be, if you sell it before a certain time,
Yes.
that money has to be paid back.
It
And
does.
people oftentimes will forget
They do.
about that.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Good
Yeah.
to know. Good to know. A common statement I hear a lot from my sellers when I give them a net to seller or every year their numbers is that I paid my taxes. How do property taxes work, and how are they handled in regards to purchase contract in Franklin County and surrounding counties for the most part? Or actually all 88 counties, right, of
in
Ohio.
Yeah, so it depends off the contract because we see a lot of Columbus contracts, but if you were to use, like, let's just say a Dayton contract, that's like short form tax where we're a long tax proration.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about Franklin County and those surrounding counties.
Sure.
Taxes are paid a year in the rears. In 2018, we're actually paying taxes for 2017.
Okay.
So with that being said, 2 months before tax time, so taxes are due in January and June, we start collecting first half property taxes 2 months before they're due.
Okay.
A lot of our sellers and agents, when they give the net to seller to the seller, they're like, we already paid our taxes. Well, maybe some of you have, but 99% of the time, no, you have not, because we are a year behind in taxes.
Not that they're delinquent on their taxes, it's just
Right.
that that's how it's billed in Ohio
It
in
is.
the arrears.
Yes.
Maybe something else that someone trying to sell their house by themselves may not realize
Correct.
why it's important to have an agent represent them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are all title companies the same? We'll wrap up with this question.
Definitely not.
Definitely not, yeah.
We offer title insurance, but we are not created equally. I believe PMTitle and our staff, we definitely out hustle and outwork the rest, and that
Yeah.
I truly live by. We are the best title company in the world, is what I say,
Yeah.
and we're definitely full service, 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
So,
It would be interesting to me to see, like, on a graph, market share takeover, right, by the
Yeah.
title companies and how in terms of the volume.
we're actually in
and-
the top 5.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
So,
That, you know what,
it's
doesn't
exciting.
surprise me at all
Yeah.
because
And-
PMTitle is
Yeah.
awesome.
So
The
exciting.
benchmark for service in
Yes.
Central Ohio.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming
Thank
in today.
you.
We really
Thanks,
appreciate
Chris.
your
Yeah,
opportunity.
so fun.
Look forward to talking to you guys again soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Just do like a wrap. Just be like, hey guys, thanks for joining us. Enjoy the
Thanks for joining us at Prime Properties, and we look forward to hearing from you guys next week.